Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully you're feeling pumped after the last video and ready to really take your understanding of the kind of things professional traders are looking at to the next level. Our sole focus now is going to be on closing the gap. Now, it's very important to mention before we start looking in detail at the raw data, the depth of market is very important to mention. And I want you to write this down on your piece of paper that you printed off earlier. I've left a box there called long-term plan. I want you to write down the following 2 bullet points word for word in that box. Bullet point 1, the long-term plan is not to trade from the depth of market. Bullet point 2, the long-term plan is to extract only what we need and then apply it to our charts. Please write down these 2 bullet points. I cannot stress it enough. The long-term plan is not to trade from this. I do not use the depth of market to trade. A lot of institutional traders like to do it. I personally don't think staring at it all day long is the best way to go about things. It is, however, extremely important to understand it and to spend a short amount of time doing that, which does involve some observation, which we'll do together. However, once we've done that, we will just extract the most useful information from it and then apply it onto our charts. No need to sit and watch it all day. This is why I said at the beginning that even if you've used or seen this type of thing before, you need to do this part of the program, because I do things differently to a lot of institutional traders, and that is where my 20 years experience really starts to come in. I know which bits to take and which bits to ignore. So if you skip any part of the program, you're going to miss that. Now, we will discuss what I just said in much more detail as we go along, but it's good for you to know that our overall goal is to simply extract the information we need from here, but then apply it on our chart. So we get the best of both worlds. Again, this will become much clearer further down the line. However, the ultimate plan, you'll be very relieved to know, is to still be trading purely on the charts, but the difference is you will now have access to much wider information, what is actually going on behind the scenes. However, to get there, we obviously need to build ourselves towards that. If you don't understand what is going on in the raw data of the market, how do you know which bits are going to be the most useful for you when you eventually transition back to your chart? Especially if this is new for you, it's so important we spend some time just discussing what we're seeing here in a little bit more detail. What you will realize very quickly is that the raw data, is 100% what is causing the market to move up and down, which I think is probably dawning on you already. Now, I'm going to say it one more time. I do not want you to be concerned that we will be getting rid of charts and only looking at numbers. That couldn't be further from the truth. In fact, the opposite is true. Eventually, we will actually not even need this, because we'll put everything we need from this onto our charts. Just imagine what that is going to do to your trading and how far that is going to put you ahead of other retail traders, because you will have all this information, but combined with the simplicity of using a chart. So the best of both worlds, but that takes a little bit of time. It's a process, but I'm super excited to take you through it. So let's get on with it. Now, we're going to focus on the depth of market a little bit to start with. Like I said, we will go back to only using charts eventually, but let's just embrace the process, because it's going to completely change everything you thought you knew about the markets. Finally, it's also worth mentioning, I will also get you set up with the depth of market so you can just get a feel for it and actually get some more hands-on experience watching it move. That's the best way to learn after all. But first, of course, it makes sense to just give you some basics before I let you loose on it. Now, we're going to begin with the pound versus the dollar, just to keep things nice and neat, because that's what we've already been looking at. But eventually, we will also slowly introduce other financial markets. So if you trade other markets, maybe other forex pairs, equity indices, commodities, and so on, it doesn't matter. We will take a look at those later, and you will see that the concept of supply and demand applies universally. Now, in terms of what you've seen so far, you already know the first column is the price, items 1 and 2, straightforward and something you're already familiar with if you use a basic retail platform. Let's now move on and focus purely on the other columns that you don't see on your retail chart, 3, 4, 5, and 6. This is where it gets interesting. Now, the second column in, or item 3, as it's labeled here, is supply, in the sense that it is simply showing us how many units of pound dollar are available for us to sell into. So for example, say you wanted to sell the pound versus the dollar, i.e. you are going to press sell on your retail platform. Can you see there's currently no supply for you to sell into at 123.93? It's blank. Can you see you won't be able to sell at that price? There's no supply available. No one is willing to buy from you. At that price, you would have to go down one price and sell into the people bidding for pounds at the next price down, 123.92. That is why this supply column is called bids. If you want to sell something, i.e. hit sell on your platform, do you agree? You need someone willing to buy it from you. That is exactly what we have here. We have people bidding, just another way of saying willing to buy from you, which by default means you can sell to them. Think about it. When you hit the sell button on your chart, you must be selling to someone, right? Obviously, you're not trading with yourself. You are selling to someone else. That person is in this bid column, willing to buy from you. You don't see this on your retail platform, but can you see you are now seeing behind the scenes? Think of this as a hidden column on your retail chart. The official name for it is the depth or supply, if you prefer. All it's doing is telling us there are people willing to buy up to 68 units from you at 123.92. So if you want to sell pound dollar on your chart, the most you can sell is 68 units. 68 units is the total supply available to the whole market. If those 68 bids or supply didn't exist, there'll be no market and you would not be able to sell anything. You wouldn't be able to trade. As I said, what you see here is exactly what is going on behind the scenes on your retail chart. You just don't see it. You see a price, 1 and 2, but you don't see the depth, i.e. the other side of your trade, the supply available to you. Now, even more interestingly, as you can see, that supply available to you is changing all the time and is different at different prices. You can see that here. Now, what you cannot do is jump to the next price, 123.91 in this instance. Those 68 units available that you can sell into at 123.92, first, they need to be cleared out before you can start selling at the next price down, 123.91. And in any case, you wouldn't want to sell at 123.91 because it's a worse price than 123.92 anyway. The final point I want to make is, have you noticed that the supply available to you is not unlimited? You cannot just sell as much as you like unlimited at a single price. For example, say you wanted to sell 200 units of the pound. Do you see, you wouldn't be able to do that at a single price. When you hit sell, 68 would get filled at 123.92, 93 would get filled at 123.91, and the balance of your 200 units would get filled at 123.90, and so on. That is why you sometimes get slippage on your retail platform. You sell at a certain price, but there's no supply available, so your broker starts filling you at worse prices. This topic of retail broker slippage is a topic in itself, which we won't get into here, but hopefully it is helping you understand the concept of supply or depth and how it's so influential on the market. Now, the third column in, or item 4 labeled here, simply shows us how many units were actually sold at each price to the people who were bidding for them. So it's the demand for selling. When you hit sell on your platform, you are demanding to sell right now. This is where it would show up here in the sold column because you sold. So we can see on the way down, 6 units were sold at 123.95, 4 units were sold at 123.94, and finally 5 units were sold at 123.93. The next price available is 123.92. Can you see the market has just been eating into the supply that was available in the bid column and worked its way down? Hopefully straightforward so far. And just to give you an example to make it extra clear, let's say you hit sell on your platform and we're selling 2 units at the best price available to you, 123.92. Can you see the number 2 would appear here in the sold column, and 68 would reduce to 66. You just sold or ate into the supply. For the price to tick down, another 66 units would have to be sold. Supply and demand, simple as that. Now the fourth column, item 5, shows us how many units were actually bought at a particular price. The demand for buying. When you hit sell on your platform, remember, it shows up in the sold column because you demanded to sell immediately. In the same way, when you hit buy on your platform, it would show up here in the bought column because you demanded to buy immediately. And no need to complicate it more than that. It represents exactly what it says at the top. 38 units were bought at 123.93, 3 units were bought at 123.94, and so on. And then finally, the last column, in the same way we need people willing to buy from us if we want to sell, we need people willing to sell to us if we want to buy. When you hit the buy button on your platform, who do you think you're buying from? There has to be someone on the other side. Otherwise, how would you trade? Who are you trading with? Therefore, item 6, the final column in this instance, shows us how many units or supply are actually available for us to buy, opposite of what you saw in the bid column. People in this final column are offering us units or supplying us units, and we can take them up on that kind offer. Do you see why they are called offers? Because people in the final column are offering units to us. It is supply. If we actually buy those units, our transactions are recorded in the second to last column, as we already mentioned, because we bought it from them. BOT is just institutional shorthand for bought. And again, just to make it super clear, let's say you hit buy on your platform and we're buying 2 units at the best price available to you, 123.94, and you see the number 2 would appear here in the bought column, or in fact 3 would actually go up to 5 because 3 units were bought just before you, and 51 would reduce 49. You just bought or ate into the supply. There are still another 49 available if you want them. Hopefully straightforward. Now, just as a side note, can you see why I say that financial markets are identical to any other business in the world and operate in the same way, in the sense that every business has a depth of market? Think about Amazon's entire business model. For every product they sell, they have a record of supply. For example, jackets. Can you see? This could just as easily be a depth of market for jackets. All we do is substitute the pound-dollar price for a jacket price. Say these 4 prices were $45, $50, $55, and $60. Amazon have decided they have 51 jackets available to supply to offer you at $50, 78 jackets at $55, and 80 jackets at $60. Amazon supply. On the inside columns is how many people have actually bought those jackets. Demand. So far, 38 jackets have been bought at $45. They got sold out at that price and the price went up to $50. 3 have been bought at that price so far. What is going to cause Amazon to put their price up to $55? It's obvious. Those 51 jackets need to get sold out and we tick up to $55. What is going to cause pound dollar to tick up from 123.94 to 123.95? Exactly the same thing. The 51 units need to get sold out. Can you see why I get so frustrated at the things retail traders are looking at? It is complete and utter nonsense. Nothing to do with markets. No politer way to put it. Markets go up and down for the reasons any market goes up and down. The interaction of demand and supply. So anyway, to summarize, if you want to buy the market, you would go to people willing to sell it to you. That's the supply of sellers in the offer column. If you want to sell the market, you would go to the supply of people willing to buy it from you in the bid column. That is why on your retail chart, have you noticed the sell button is sometimes called the bid, because you are selling to people on the bid column here. And the buy button is sometimes called the ask or offer, because you are buying from people on the offer column. So ironically, you actually have this terminology on your retail chart, but because you don't see the rest of the information like professional traders do, it may not have dawned on you that you are actually part of this bigger picture. Now you know. Now we're going to go through it plenty more times, and I'll also get you set up. You can see this yourself and practice on it, and I promise you, it'll all become second nature. In the meantime, just to finish off this video, let's build a very small summary table that I want you to memorize. I've left a PDF copy for you in the download section called DOME Summary Table 1. So just remember, the outer supply columns are very straightforward. You've got bids, people willing to buy from you, and you've got offers, people willing to sell to you. You can even see the number of units they're willing to supply to you, hence the word supply. And similarly, with regards to the inner demand columns, sold is people selling right now to the bids. There's basically someone like you pressing the sell button, and the number of units you sell is recorded here in the middle. And bought is people buying right now from the offers. So it's people like you pressing the buy button, and the number of units you bought is recorded in that column. In summary, when you hit buy or sell on your platform, you are in the middle two columns, buying or selling from the people or supply on the outside columns. As straightforward as that. Memorize this table, very simple 4 columns, and you're almost good to go. I say almost because we have one final thing to address before we move on, but let's do that in the next video.